If you run a business right now, you feel it. AI is everywhere. Automation is everywhere. And you're asking yourself, am I behind? Am I using this right? Or am I going to be replaced by human judgment with something that I don't fully understand? Today, we're going to talk about ethical AI, automation, and where human judgment still matters. Akhil, I am so excited to have you on the show today. And, I just want to get started, because you have such great information and you're so well educated in this area. I think you're going to help tons of people. Now, is AI making businesses smarter or just faster?
Oof. I would actually say, as of right now, it's just making businesses faster. As far as I know, there are very few people that are actually using AI to create ideas and generate new information or creativity. Most people, at least as of now, with the productive solutions that I've seen, are just focused on automating things and making what it already works either work at the same standard does currently, or maybe surpassing those standards a little bit, but fundamentally just having it happen by done by a machine as opposed to done by a human.
Now, let's be honest, most business owners aren't afraid of AI. I mean, they are afraid of losing control. Now, where do you see businesses over automating?
So I think it's less of question of over automation and more that they're a bit too quick with their automation and it's ill considered. So I think the
Mhm.
number one bit of advice that I give business owners is before you automate, evaluate and structure your data. So the two things that I would really, and I think this works best with an example. So let's say, for example, you want to automate something like when someone reaches out to you from an Instagram ad for your business, you want an AI agent to respond to them and sell your product to them and then book a lead and book a call with a human being, right? Like just keep it simple. The first thing you
Right.
need to do is look at how that's happening right now, right? Collect all of the data about that's happening as of today within your business. Look at the success rate of your humans interacting with these people. Identify what the standards are. So let's say your conversion after someone clicks on an Instagram ad is 30%, which is pretty good. And your average time to contact is about 30 minutes to 2 hours, something like that, right?
Mhm.
Now, when you deploy an AI agent, obviously your time to contact is going to be less than a minute because there's no reason for an agent to wait. Now, typically
Right.
what we've seen is that there's often a 20x increase in responses. That doesn't mean complete conversion, but there's a 20x increase in responses, sometimes as much as 50x increase in responses when you respond within a minute,
Mm.
right? And then in terms of conversions, it varies a lot by the area. So on something like real estate, the difference in conversion may not be that big because people are willing to wait 2 hours to hear about $1 million flat. But if it's
Right.
about something small, like, someone to put up a shower in like a new shower head in their bathroom, people may not, the conversion rate could be 20x because there are 20 other options within, a few minutes who've already responded within 5 minutes. So number one is define the metrics of the problem you're trying to solve. And then number two, label the data that AI has access to and the setting changes that AI has access to clearly. Distinguish between companies or even internal teams that are selling you the idea of an agent, but it's really just a chatbot, and make sure
Mhm.
agent can actually perform tasks. But also ensure that in order to get access to certain information, in order to change certain settings, you should require human oversight. You don't want an agent to be able to use your business credit card. You don't want your agent to be able to issue $1,000 refunds to an angry customer. And
Yeah.
so, if I can recommend two steps, label your data and settings accurately so that it's really easy for anyone that's automating this process to understand where the agent should get permission. And then before you try to hire someone or get an internal team to solve a problem with AI, understand where you are today and define those metrics clearly so that you have clear success criteria for when you deploy AI and when automation is working or when it's not.
That's a great answer. Now, what's the biggest mistake that companies make when implementing AI?
So yeah, it's basically a follow-on for what I said. So the number one mistake that I see is they get caught up in a buzzword and then they just go straight to deployment without doing those steps in advance. So classic example for this is everyone hears, oh, customer service is a solved problem. And to some extent it is, right? But it's a complicated problem. It's not an easy problem. And if all like the way AI companies sell customer service being solved is as if people call customer service just to hear the FAQs read out to them. That's no one is calling customer service for that reason. Most of the
Yeah.
time they can figure out, what the company policy is. They're calling either because they want to change a specific setting that they don't have access to, or
Right.
they're unhappy with the policy and they want to change it in some way,
Mhm.
right? And
Yes.
so the number one mistake that I see people make is they just hear a buzzword. They say like AI is great, great at customer service, and then they like pick up some off-the-shelf solution and dump it on their system, put it on top of Zendesk, and just hope that it's going to work. And I've never seen that work. And there may be a time in the future when AI gets to the point where that works, but I think we're pretty far away from that as of right now. And I don't see us trending towards that in the next couple of years. So, yeah.
Right. Now, can automation reduce thinking instead of enhancing it?
Oh, absolutely. I think that one of the interesting things that was in a BCG report recently was about how when you actually save time, so you are seeing tasks, time saved on tasks. And what I see quite often, which I found quite funny, is that because expectations haven't changed, when you look at large companies, when you save people an hour, they're not spending that hour doing more work. They're just chilling for that hour, which,
Yeah.
is very human. And it is not surprising at all to anyone. Like anyone except an economist is not going to be surprised by this. Like anyone that understands human psychology, if you've got expectations like, hey, this task takes a day, it's going to be a while before we recalibrate to the new reality. And until then, employees are going to take advantage to just chill for the extra time that they get.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do worry a little bit in schools, in businesses, whether a significant amount, even with what I do, I haven't written a line of code in months. And I do worry a little bit that there are elements of my critical thinking that are going away. There are definitely new ones that are coming up, but at the same time, I'm pushing these things constantly. I do worry that, people in certain areas like copywriting or very task-based jobs, I really don't know what the future is for them. And I think it'll be up to everyone to continue to challenge themselves and find side projects and find things to, because I do believe that a life without challenging your brain is quite a sad one.
Oh, for sure. Now, automation sounds efficient, but efficiency without judgment can be dangerous. Where have you seen AI make the wrong call?
Oh, tons of places. So I think that it's really funny. It's a client once asked me, um, what like with the chatbot, what are the questions that I shouldn't ask this agent to do? And what should I be scared of asking these agents? Like, what are the no-nos? And I
Right.
said, if you ever ask yourself a question, if there are ever questions that you shouldn't ask your agent, you've already lost. No system should be set up in a way that the safety mechanism that's stopping something bad happening is just based on you holding back
Right.
on doing something. So I have guardrails and clear um, guide paths of where all of the agents that we deploy can automate, can operate. So, for example, if I'm building a customer service agent, um, I do want to allow some discretion, because if you give no discretion to an agent, then it's just not automating stuff. But
Right.
at the same time, you need to have very clear guidelines, right? There was a famous case where an agent that Chevy deployed basically sold a Tahoe for like $10 or some ridiculous, like a $75,000 car. It was just
Yeah.
told to make the customer happy, right? And obviously they
Hmm.
didn't need to follow through with that because, but as these laws get more strict, companies, I believe, will be held accountable for what their agents, which will be their representatives, say. And it
Right.
is going to be so important that you provide these limitations on how they operate. And those limitations
Mhm.
cannot be defined by the AI frameworks. They have to be deterministic fixed limitations. So
Yeah.
a simple example would be for a customer service bot. First of all, the average customer service bot should not be able to issue refunds. We actually build this squad of agent system when we're doing customer service, and it passes it on to a manager, which is usually a more expensive model, which is more expensive to run. So we don't want every agent to use it, but that's the only agent that can decide whether you're going to issue refunds. And even when you issue refunds, it's always within certain guidelines. So if someone's been a customer for 5 years, they've spent X amount of money with your company, maybe X by 30, you can discretionally give as a refund if the customer is upset about something. So
Right.
these sorts of guidelines need to be written in stone. Or if you ever want to exceed them, you need to check with a human, you know? And so all of these kind of cases, you have to build certain guardrails that cannot be ignored and certain guardrails that require human oversight when you want to break them. But yeah.
That's a great answer. Now, what happens when data doesn't tell the full story?
Could you elaborate on that? Sorry.
Yeah, so what happens when data doesn't tell the full story? Like, we can go into AI sometimes and we can ask specific questions and, it can give us, information, but it may not give us enough information that we can just rely on it 100% to make us an important decision.
Yeah, so great question. So what I tend to do is, and this is one of the reasons why it's so important to start with that step that I mentioned earlier of evaluating the situation, right?
Right,
So the I like if I take two extremes of problems that I've worked on. So there's cases where I've worked on problems in the legal AI space, and there's cases where I've worked on lead conversion, right? And the truth is, for any business, as much as lead conversion is as a whole is essential for a business, any
right,
individual lead is not that valuable, right? The value of an average lead, even for a good business, is probably $100 to $200, right?
right.
And so if you screw that up, it's not the end of the world. If you
Yeah.
provide a fake case reference to a lawyer,
Hmm.
they use that in anything that they're doing in court, that is unacceptable, right?
Right.
And so you can structure these agents in a way that they present information only by citing sources, and
Mhm.
you have them present not their own ideas, but if whenever they present an idea, couch it under a reference and a citation, almost similar to the way a lawyer operates. Now, doing that for a lead conversion system is overkill, right? Like you
Right.
don't need your Instagram bot to be like citing sources like, hey, according to our FAQ number 13C, you will be entitled to this if you sign up for our, re-roofing solution or whatever. It doesn't need to be that
Yeah.
accurate. Whereas,
Hmm.
and so it really varies from state to state, but hallucinations have gone down. That is one thing that every iterative improvement on these models have consistently shown is that models check themselves better, hallucinations have gone down. I do believe they will continue to go down quite significantly, but for for the foreseeable future, for cases where it really, really matters to you not get stuff wrong, if you're going to make conclusions from a data scientist bot that you build, if you're going to have legal advice, if you're going to have medical advice, I think it's still crucial to cite sources and check everything with the human brain.
Oh, I agree 100%. Now, everyone says ethical AI. Like, what does that actually mean in business?
Uh, Honestly, it's such a broad term. There's so much of it that, and I should clarify, I'm an engineer, not an ethicist. There's so much about AI that I struggle with. There's the the idea that people, a lot of like what we build in terms of training AI is very often the people doing jobs are training AI to replace them. There are examples of even the way these companies operate, right? How they generate these foundational models, which I love and use constantly, and they're a big part of how I operate.
Yeah.
They obviously take data from all over the internet, and whether they have a right to that data and whether they're obviously not compensating the creators of that data. Now, there are big
Right.
creators of that data, like New York Times and stuff like that, who are able to sue and get compensation because they can
Yes.
prove directly that, hey, certain conclusions are directly from our website. But there
Right.
are every small blog is not going to be able to do that. And at the same time, I understand how impractical it would be for these major hyperscalers to go and find every individual blog owner and compensate them for, what every little bit of text that they've added to the internet. So there are so many areas around ethical AI that are, yeah, just incredibly complicated. But broadly speaking, I think what I would recommend is trying to educate the people within your company on AI, understand that it is inevitable. I don't think it's realistic to ignore it. At the same time, I have worked with companies that as they replace work, they retrain people. And
Right.
for example, we've worked with a company that as we automate their customer service area, they're retraining them to be salespeople.
Right.
And so there are ways you can be ethical within your own small sphere. And I don't
Right.
think the fact that this advance seems inevitable means that we should ignore that.
Oh, I agree. Now, who is actually responsible when AI makes a bad decision?
Oh my God, that is an excellent question, and it's something that I always I have an answer that, but I'm not sure that the world agrees with.
Mhm.
So in general, I believe that AI solutions within companies should be deployed by the manager of the person that was doing the task. And
Mm,
the reason I say that is you want someone that is currently accountable for the task,
hmm.
and you want someone that is incentivized to have the task automated. So if you have it grant if you put the responsibility in the hands of the person that is currently doing the task, there's a bit of a conflict of interest because arguably that person may not want that task automated, right?
Yeah.
However, if you put it in the hands of the manager, two things happen. One, if they're a good manager and they want the best for the people who report to them, it will be up to them to slowly adjust their employees' work so that certain tasks can be automated and they can put more time and effort into the high value things that they could work on. The
Right.
second thing is, I believe that managers are the people that are accountable right now. They're not responsible, but they're accountable for exactly what happens within that workflow as of today. And
Right.
someone needs to be accountable when it's automated. You can't
Hmm.
hold an AI to blame, right? There are these reports
Yes.
from ages ago that talk about, no computer should make a decision. And this is way before AI, but it talked about no computer should make a decision because no computer can be held accountable. And that hasn't changed.
Right.
And so I strongly believe that someone should be accountable and it should be pushed down to the level of where the task was occurring before. And I think the ideal person is actually the manager, not the person that was doing the task.
Right. That's a very good answer. And I agree with you, actually. Now, what are the red flags businesses should watch out for
When adopting AI, when interacting with new companies, or in which area would you?
when adopting AI?
Okay. Um, yeah. So I think the number one red flag that I've seen businesses fall for is really, really cool demos. So I one of the scourges of modern AI is how easy it is to get 85 or 90% of the way there. And
Hmm.
one of the problems with life in general is 85 to 90% is
Yeah.
often useless, right? And so the it's because if you're correcting things 1 in 10 times,
Mhm.
you're just as vigilant with everything. And quite often, when something is confidently wrong and someone is checking it without much thought, the repercussions of getting those 1 in 10 things wrong, or even 1 in 100 things wrong, so let's say you spot 9 out of 10 of those,
Right.
are often greater than having just done the task manually, like the benefits you're getting by automation.
Right.
So I think people need to recognize whether they build these things internally. So a lot of companies are now building AI solutions internally. And I think that's wonderful. Like if you can build them internally, that's a great way to do things. But the truth is, AI can make everyone feel like an engineer, but you're still not an engineer. And
Right.
there is still a gap between truly understanding these systems and Claude Code, as great as I think Claude Code is, it doesn't bridge that gap for the average
Mhm.
person. You still need to understand these systems. You still need to stop them from becoming brittle over time. So right now, it's super easy to take a bunch of customer support cases, give you a demo of an AI agent answering those questions, and you're just amazed. You think, oh my God, tomorrow I'm going to replace all my customer service reps. And it's just not true.
No.
And the gap between a cool demo and a real workable, deployable, reliable agent
Mhm.
is often tens of thousands of dollars and months of work. And it
Right.
looks like you're 80% of the way there when you start. Like on day one, you're 80% of the way there, and then you take 5 months to get 96% of the way there, which is where what you actually need to deploy a solution. So I think that's, yeah, like the biggest red flag is falling for a really cool demo.
Now, what do you make sure automation aligns with values? How do you make sure actually automation aligns with values?
So I think it goes back to the evaluation part of it. So before you start
Mhm.
any automation, before I start any automation, I do a thorough analysis of the way, sorry. Okay, yeah. Before I start any automation, I do a thorough evaluation of the way the task is being done as of today. So almost all of my automations involve sitting with the person that does the task today, and then sitting with their managers and understanding every step of the task, all of the knowledge and the judgment calls that are made during the course of the task, and then
Mhm.
understanding what is the success criteria of the task. I don't like automating tasks that don't have clear definitions of success.
Right.
Even if it's something like composing an email response to a message or something from a client, the definition of success is zero edits from the reviewer before you send it out. There is
Okay.
always a definition of success. If there isn't a definition of success, um, then it may not be a good candidate for automation. So once you do that, then you identify all of the areas of the automation that pose risk. So is there a monetary thing that's happening? Is there access to private data? Is there, all of the steps that you should be worried about? Then you decide, can you programmatically provide the guardrails for that to happen safely? So in some cases that may be true. So for example, if in order to solve a customer service bug, you need to access a setting from that customer. Now
Mhm.
that's a very guided, narrow approach. So if it's clear that someone wants to change their voicemail forwarding address or something like that, it's clear that you need their voicemail number. Like that's a very controlled access. And that maybe you
Right.
can automate completely. If someone wants to generally look at the data in their account, now that you may want a human to intervene for, not give the agent full access to everything in their account, right? And so you
Right.
need to take judgment calls on ensuring that the expectations of privacy and security that your users have come to expect when they
Mhm.
interact with your product remain the same as they always have, even as you move towards automation. And if you don't implement these things properly, prompt injection, general access to the wrong kind of data, um, decisions taken by agents that you then have to be accountable for, all of these things are possible. And I don't know when the law is going to catch up with this stuff, but I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to be long before legally what an agent says on behalf of a company is binding. I
Right.
do feel like that is going to happen soon. And so if a customer service agent promises you, a $200,000 refund for something, I don't,
Yeah.
and as of today, that's probably not binding, but I don't think that that's, going to last forever. So yeah.
Now, what should someone check in their business this week?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that the first thing you should do is talk to people within your company and see if they're using AI. And
Mhm.
very often, the best ideas for how to use AI come internally. So what you'll find is, so I'll give you an example of one of the great projects that we worked on. It was with a restoration company that basically fixes problems within buildings. And once they're done fixing these problems, they send a bill to an insurance company, and then there's a long back and forth with the insurance company on them getting paid for their work. And someone within the company, a few people within the company, were using Gemini or some other LLM. I think it was Gemini in this case. To once the insurance company had sent a response back, they were using Gemini to analyze the response, give Gemini access to all of the information about the project, and basically counter any claims the insurance company had made, saying, "Oh, you didn't need to do this. We're not going to pay for this." Blah
Mm,
blah blah. Right.
right.
Now, that's a kernel. The best ideas often come internally because if you go by what your employees tell you is this is how we're using AI. Number one, you get them involved in the process. You make them have agency as opposed to feeling something's being forced on them and AI is just
Yeah.
coming to replace them, right? Number two, honestly, they're probably the smartest people to tell you what AI is actually useful. If you try to just hear whatever sounds cool on the news and then force it on your company, it may or may
Yeah.
not be useful, right? And this CEO
Right.
did that. They listened and then but they realized that you could actually go much further than this person was doing. You could actually have an agent automate the whole process. You didn't even need a human to be responding to these emails. So the human was now
Right.
taking the emails, taking all the information, putting it all together. But if you just automated that whole process, you could have an agent go through all of the steps, review all the state codes, review all the national codes, and make sure that its response was perfect and tailored to each item on the bill. And we were able to build a much better automation system using that. But the idea came from an employee. And I think listening to your employees, step one, once you've listened to them, identify a few opportunities. And then, as I mentioned before, do a thorough evaluation of them. Then decide whether you want to build a solution in house or go external. I think if you've got great engineering talent, good AI
Mhm.
engineers in house, it's always good to do stuff in house because you can maintain it. Obviously, I'm biased against it, but as someone that offers those services, but I'm not going to lie and say that it's better to hire externally if you can't do it in house. That's obviously not true.
Right.
But if you don't have the expertise, I do believe very strongly that the difference between a really well-made solution and a decently made solution is so huge today. And the truth is,
Yes.
it's not that different in price, when you look at the ROI over years. And so if you don't have the expertise, be honest with yourself about that and probably hire a team to build a good solution for you.
Now let's flip this. What can AI not do or replace?
So there's a lot of stuff. Fundamentally, okay, okay, I would say number one is agency, right?
Mhm.
And I've never seen an AI, even when so I have like personal agents that work with OpenClaw that have a lot more autonomy than the typical AI agents and they run all the time. I've never actually, like when I give them a direction, they've given me ideas that are great and ideas that I haven't thought of. I've never actually had it give, but I am tasking it to do this for me. I've never had it without me giving general areas or suggestions. I've never had AI given me an idea or of something I should be working on that I'm not working on. So AI is great once you know what to do. It's great at helping you get there. I haven't found it great at figuring out what to do, you know. Once you know what you should be doing, it makes the process of getting there much, much more efficient. But you still need to figure out what you should be doing and where you should be going.
Exactly.
Um, so that level of agency, there are also obvious answers to this question, like the highest level of research, the highest level of creativity. Personally, I don't like weirdly enough, I don't like even though this is the first thing AI has been doing and it's been promised for long, I don't like AI writing at all. I can instantly tell the difference between AI writing. I'm a big
Yeah.
reader and I don't even it's so funny because this was the thing that we thought would be gone really quickly. And I actually
Yeah.
don't think that's true. And I actually think that, weirdly enough, it wasn't some AI expert that said this. It was Ben Affleck was on a podcast saying how the tendency of AI is to kind of regress to the mean. And he's not entirely right about that, but the general point is true. Is that it tends to be inoffensive, uncreative writing that is just based on the writing of the internet, you know. And
Right.
the truth is that isn't great writing. And
No.
yeah, new creative ideas for stories, new creative ideas for songs, all of that stuff is still a long way off. Extreme erudition in certain areas is still a long way off. I haven't really seen evidence that it's going to replace theoreticians, brilliant musicians, brilliant. I think the thing that AI is likely to push people out of is people that don't really care about their jobs or people that are average at what they do. Now, that is obviously a concern because by definition, at least, you know, a good percentage of the world has to be average at what they do. And there's nothing wrong with being average at what you do. Some people see their jobs as a way to live their lives, and that's completely fine. But I will say that whatever field you're in, those are the people that I would be most concerned about.
Right.
I don't think there's a single field where I feel AI is likely to replace the best individuals anytime in the next 5 years. Um, and so maybe customer service or like, you know, something that is extremely task based like that. But the best people, like the best writers, the best journalists, I just think it's really far away. And I also haven't even seen it trending in that direction. Like I don't see the
Right.
writing getting significantly better, honestly. So, yeah.
Now, do you think that AI can replace leadership?
No. And part of that is capability, and part of that is human nature and acceptance.
Mhm.
Um, I think one thing that people miss in the whole will AI replace X debate is it worth it to do so, right? Now, for example, there are some problems that are extremely hard, but there is such an incredible monetary value in replacing it that it is worth it to do. So the obvious example is software engineering. I would consider myself a fairly good programmer. I worked at Google for 6 years. I know other brilliant programmers. None of us have written a line of code in the last 6 months. And
Mhm.
the programmers at Claude Code say the same thing. The programmers at OpenAI say the same thing. It is meaningless. Like there is nothing that I could code better than Claude Code once I know what should be done, right?
Right.
Now, coding is an incredibly complex task, but if the full attention of some of the most brilliant minds in the world are towards automating it, it will get automated. Now, is does that mean AI is going to replace every sound engineer or every you know, like any niche job that you can think of? Probably not, because it's just not worth the money to do it. And similarly,
Right.
when it comes to leadership, there's capability and desire, right? So could it
Mhm.
theoretically make those decisions? Maybe, but as I mentioned, the agency thing has always been an issue for AI. Like it's not a self-starter, right? And it
Yeah.
hasn't yet been. Now they are working on more proactive agents, and maybe that could change. And that is one area where I feel like so little work has been done there because so far everyone just wants agents to do what they're told to do. No one wants them to be creative and starting their own things. So it's possible that that will change because with every other question you ask me, I know people have tried and failed, right? Like I know
Yeah.
people have tried to make agents that are great directors. They just haven't been able to. I know people have tried to make agents that are great musicians. They just haven't been able to. I don't think people have tried very hard to make great leadership agents. So it's hard to answer that question. But
Right.
fundamentally, I think if a job is not mainstream enough and is
Mhm.
not a large enough percentage of the workforce that
Right.
requires replacement, the impetus or the value of doing something or spending that much time replacing the task is just lower, and it's just less likely to be replaced. Also, let's be honest, like the people that are making the decisions on what people should work on don't want their jobs replaced, and you know they're the ones making the decisions. So yeah.
Right. Now, what do you think about strategic thinking? Do you think that AI could replace that?
Again, similar answer, not really. I think what I'm seeing more and more is this thing of like people, I don't know if this is the new buzzword, but um, I don't know if people call it identic AI or identity AI. So the next thing after agentic AI, and I'm starting to see this, right? So my when I my personal agents that I use, they've
Hmm.
started adopting my identity, right? When I look for apartments in an area, they know the kind of thing that I like. They know the kind of even like what they do things that I found really surprising. Like when I set a budget, they often go above it, and I think they've realized that I keep going above budget whenever I do something, and it's just really funny that to me that
Yeah.
these sorts of like little things happen and these little patterns emerge, and that's just who I am. I think that if I see something that I really like, I whatever budget I had in mind kind of goes out the window. And so there are elements of who you are that get captured in these agents. I think what's really likely to happen is the people responsible for strategic thinking will have dual identities that branch off into various things, collect data, come up with ideas. But I think it's going to be a long time before people are comfortable replacing the actual accountability of taking those decisions with AI. I think it's just that people will have far more information, be
Mhm.
aware of far more things before they take those decisions, and will
Right.
receive condensed reports of detailed analyses of what's happening below them before they make those decisions.
Now, if someone is worried about being replaced by automation, like where should they double down on?
Okay, so I know people are tired of hearing this, but I would strongly encourage people to believe what I say when I say, you will unlikely be, unless your job is entirely task based, it is
Hmm.
unlikely that you will be replaced by AI. It is
Hmm.
very likely that you will be replaced by someone using AI. And I know people are tired of hearing that, but it is just true. And
Yeah.
that old saying of, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, the second best time is today. I would apply that here. The best time to have started learning how to use AI was a while ago, but
Yes.
it is absolutely not too late. If you
Hmm.
start now or soon, you are still way ahead of. I think it's easy to get caught up in the discourse and feel like everyone's using it and you're already behind. It is absolutely
Right.
not true. Almost, even among the people who use it and talk about it, I would say the extent of their use is something you could learn. About 90% of what people do with it, or probably even higher, you could learn in less than a month. And the really complicated things that you can learn aren't that complicated, and it will put you in such a tiny minority
Yeah.
of people that I think you will be incredibly valuable over the next 5 to 10 years. And when I say incredibly valuable, I mean so valuable that what happens after that may not matter. Like you may have enough to retire. And so I think the number one advice I would give is build your own agents and see what happens. Start with fun little projects that you like. Start by using Claude Code and see if you can build, or even Lovable if Claude Code's too complicated,
Yeah.
and see if you can build basic things for your daily life. Like just build yourself a fitness tracker or build yourself a scheduler. Just get in the habit of every time you want something, don't look for an app, just see if you can build it yourself. Let that
Right.
become an AI first human being first, and then start deploying agents. So
Mhm.
if you have the time to dig into OpenClaw, it is pretty fascinating. If you're not an experienced programmer, definitely don't run it on your personal computer. Create a private server and run these things. I think what people need to really understand is when I say things like create a private server, a lot of people get taken back. They think if you're not an engineer, you can't do that. And that used to be the case. It was quite complicated to do these things. Now, whenever you have a question, you can just ask an infinitely patient agent, which will
Yeah.
answer all of your questions. And if I believe the number one thing to avoid being replaced is to stop setting limitations on yourself.
Hmm.
If you accept the people that will not thrive in this new age of AI are the people that accept, hey, this is what I am, and these are my skills, and those are the limitations of them.
Yeah.
And it is simply not true anymore. And if you don't accept that and start leaning into that world, I'm afraid to say that it is likely you will be replaced by AI. But if you
Right.
do accept that, if you don't accept any of those limitations, and if you
Hmm.
understand that AI gives you so much power to break beyond that,
Right.
then it is really, I really don't think there's an upper limit to what you could accomplish over the next 5 to 10 years.
Now, what does the ideal balance look like
You mean for individuals or our society as a whole?
for the ideal balance between hybrid and, and using AI as a tool also.
I see. I mean, I think I believe that any task AI can do, AI should do, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and the truth is, if you are the person running it, you get the benefit, you know.
Right,
And why would you continue doing something that a machine with a bunch of model weights can do? I don't,
right.
unless there's something, and, I'm not saying that, okay, AI can paint better than you, so stop painting. Obviously, if there's something that brings you joy, you can keep doing it.
Yeah,
And the truth is, there are people who get joy out of coding and stuff that I respect that, there is value to keeping that thing. And I think someone was saying in an interview recently, it is okay to mourn the loss of being able to code, and
yeah.
understanding that it has very little value anymore. But I I think it's important to recognize all of the things that it can't do as of now, all of the things that it's trending towards not being able to do for a very long time,
Right,
and try to focus on those things while at the same time, the things it can do, try to make sure you're the one getting it to do those things.
right.
So I think those are the two areas that almost every employee should be focusing on as of now.
Now, what should always require human oversight?
Um, I think any decision that requires accountability should still have human oversight.
Hmm.
I don't see a clear endpoint to that because,
Right.
um, well, maybe the endpoint to that will come when there are updates to the laws that govern how all of this operates and who's accountable
Hmm.
when a mistake happens. But as of right now, with the systems that we build, um, we have human oversight over a few different areas. So, number one, access to sensitive or private data. All of it requires human oversight. The
Hmm.
agent that wants to access that data should reach out to the person that has the control of whether it can access it. It should explain what it wants to access. It should provide the query to indicate that that's all it's accessing. And it should provide the reason for the access with a link to the bug that is causing it. So if it's accessing a person's email address because they
Hmm.
need to send them this, because the bug they raised was this, and they need to update this, all of that should be specified in the access request. So, number one, any access of private data. Number two, any action taken that has consequences to your client or to yourself. So, if it is an issue of a refund beyond a certain threshold, if it is, and you can decide what those thresholds are personally that you're
Right.
comfortable with. Um, if it is deleting some bit of client's data, if it's moving some folders from one point to the other, like you can decide what the threshold that you're comfortable with. And that's why it's so
Yes.
important before you start automating something, do a thorough evaluation of the way the system is as of today.
Right.
And then number three is anything that is a legal and compliance step. So
Hmm.
we, even if something doesn't have direct monetary impact and it doesn't involve accessing private data, I still don't let AI, respond to an insurance company, respond to a legal request. It can compile all the reports and get everything ready. But ultimately, if a step of legal compliance is screwed up, someone
Hmm.
needs to be held accountable, and it cannot be an
Yes.
AI agent. And
Hmm.
so yeah. So ultimately, I think, bro, I mean, I'm sure I may be missing something, but in the development that we've done, these are the three common areas. So private, secure data, anything that has monetary or significant ramifications in terms of changing things, and legal or compliance procedures in any way.
Now, can you give us an easy three-step rule for businesses that they can follow?
In order to adopt AI?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I think this goes back to talk to your employees, okay,
Hmm.
understand ideas, and try to be slightly driven bottom up when you're implementing AI. It doesn't mean you can't come up with ideas of your own, but I have found that the best ideas often come from the bottom, from the people doing the
Hmm.
tasks.
Yes.
evaluate the tasks when before you try to get anyone to implement a solution to them, and define what success means, right? And number three, as you deploy the solution, ensure guardrails, restrictions, and human oversight of all of the elements of the tasks that we talked about earlier that require additional supervision, and monitor it as it goes along. I think one of the biggest mistakes and really common mistakes that I've seen is that people deploy an AI solution, they test it for a few days, they're really vigilant for some time. And then the
Right.
moment they start trusting it, they stop checking it.
Yeah.
Whatever success criteria you're defining, it should be linked to an alert. So if you've got an Instagram DM converter that converts your leads, let's say your conversion success is 25%. If it ever dips below 20% over a
Mhm.
significant period of time, let's say 3 days,
Mhm.
you should instantly have an alert and someone should review that system.
Yes.
So, yeah, work from the bottom up, set guardrails and rigorous checks and balances, evaluate before you deploy any solution and have clear success criteria and monitor continuously. I think if you adopt these, you end up with actually useful AI solutions. They happen a little bit slower than
Mhm.
instantly deployed cool demos, but they will
Right.
actually be things that your employees thank you for, that will save you money and will boost your revenue in the long term.
Now, AI isn't the enemy, but blind automation is. The future isn't humans versus machines. I want to tell the listeners that it's humans with machines, but only if judgment stays in the driver's seat. Now, Akhil, final question. If a business owner listening is overwhelmed by AI right now, what's the first smart move they should make?
Hmm. I think start small, right? I think
Mhm.
this is one of those cases where I will say the only mistake you can definitively make is doing nothing,
Yes.
because you're not too late, but the companies that have adopted AI, a lot of them have seen negative consequences for sure, but we
Mhm.
are starting to see in the last few months significant upside. And the truth is, once they see that upside, those companies are doubling down and they're
Right.
continuing to see upside, and they've learned from their mistakes and they're continuing to see upside. So the thing about waiting right now is, it's true, you may end up with a better solution, but your entire workforce is not being AI educated. And
Right.
really, the biggest mistake you can make right now is keeping your workforce AI illiterate.
Mhm.
And because that's going to affect your company long term.
Yes.
So start small, start with a really simple workflow. Just get into the habit of,
Mhm.
when people are doing manual, boring tasks, have them start questioning themselves and seeing, like, hey, is there an easier way to do this?
Yes.
Once every employee in your company starts thinking that way, the ideas will kind of bubble up to you if
Mhm.
you're a leader that's paying attention.
Right.
And I think everything will kind of spiral from there and hopefully spiral in the right direction. And there's absolutely been cases where people have deployed AI agents that haven't worked. I've seen them, but I think it is time to get started because we are starting to see AI agents that do work. We have seen revenue boosts, like real revenue boosts from real agents deployed.
Yeah.
And that's quite recent, so you haven't missed the
Mhm.
boat by much. I would say only in the last 3 to 4 months have we seen significant ROI from real world projects. But it is starting to happen and the gap is widening. So I think the biggest mistake is doing nothing.
Now, you have an amazing company. So, can you tell us about the company and can you tell us about the services that you provide?
Sure. So essentially, we started off as a custom AI solution provider. So we didn't really have a defined thing that we worked on. We would, broadly speaking, just come and talk to you and understand a little bit about your company, understand it, talk to the individual stakeholders like your CTO, your CXO, anyone that's involved
Yeah.
in various tasks like marketing, sales, all of these divisions, and identify high ROI opportunities for AI. So what I talked about with the low hanging fruit, the ones that are going to give you significant ROI quickly. We
Mhm.
start by deploying those solutions, and then once you start seeing traction there, we start developing more complex things. We still provide that service. So if a company just wants to integrate AI with what they're doing, identify opportunities where AI could significantly boost their revenue, we still do that. We've started to identify certain patterns in our requests where we've developed ready-made products that are still not ready to go and just be deployed because I just don't believe AI is there yet.
Yeah,
So they still require an onboarding, but primarily they're all around customer management. So
right.
whatever CRM you're using, whether it's Salesforce, HubSpot, Zendesk, anything else, we build agents on top of that that help in lead validation and conversion. So, getting you new leads, Instagram bots to convert leads, and LinkedIn bots and YouTube bots, and responding to comments and all of that stuff to convert a lead to an account. Once a lead is an account, we have customer service bots because they have access to all of your information, they have access to all of your tools and settings, and
Yeah.
they can make those changes with your permission, obviously under strict supervision. Um, and then really detailed analytics and reporting. So you hear back on like, okay, these are the campaigns that are working. These are the campaigns that are getting lots of clicks. And this
Mhm.
is your conversion rate per dollar from every dollar you spend on LinkedIn, every dollar you spend on a YouTube video, and so on. And so it gives you really, really detailed insights and ROI. And then another thing that we have as a product is just intelligence on data. So it's called RAG as a service. So basically, if you have a ton of sales data and revenue data, you put our system on top of it, and you basically have a data scientist that you can ask questions. If you have a
Mhm.
bunch of FAQs and help center articles and order information, you put our service on top of it, you have a customer service bot. And then obviously we have like voice agents and stuff on top of that. So I realize that a company should probably have a shorter elevator pitch, but fundamentally, I just think that the most valuable solutions in AI today are custom. I think a lot of big companies are trying to build one size fits all solutions. And we'll
Right.
probably get there as AI gets more advanced, but I don't see that happening in the next couple of years. So, broadly speaking, if you want to integrate AI with what you're doing, I would love to chat. And I really think we are among the best engineers doing this today. So, yeah.
Now, where's your website? What can they type in to find you?
So Krazimo.com, Krazimo. And yeah, like if you search for that, you will find all the details. It covers the services and the products. And right there on the contact us page, you can book a 15-minute call with me directly. So we're still small enough that, that scales. So we'll see how much longer that lasts. But as of right now, I would love to chat if you have a business and you're looking to adopt AI.
Now, are there some social networks they can go to find you?
Yeah, I honestly, I was chatting with you about this before, and I definitely think we should get better. But Krazimo, Krazimo, is on LinkedIn. My name is Akhil Verghese, Akhilverghese. I'm sure it's going to be on whatever this is posted on. And so, yeah, if you look me up on LinkedIn, I'm available. I would love to connect. If you say you heard about me here, then I will definitely respond. I do check it quite regularly, so definitely respond. Happy to chat with anyone about adopting AI.
I love it. I want listeners to remember that if this episode has helped you think clearer about automation and ethics, follow the show because here we don't chase trends, we break them down so you can lead. Now, Raquel, thank you so much for coming on the show. You provided so much detailed information, and I just love how you just, explained everything. You didn't, do everything in a tech jargon where it went over people's head. You really spoke, you spoke about it so people could really understand, and your message was clear. And I think that, what you do is going to be so helpful. I think people fear AI or they just don't know enough about it. So it's one or the other. And I think today you brought a lot to the table and you really had people gain a lot of understanding of the capabilities of AI, what it could do, how it could help people's business grow, and how, the reasons why you shouldn't fear it because, we still need human interaction. We still need the combination of both in order to make the world thrive. So I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show today. You are phenomenal. I'd love to have you back. And you just did a great job. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Stacey. I know we jumped right in into the beginning, so I didn't get a chance to say it. I've listened to a few episodes of your show, and it's such an honor to be here, and I'd be happy to be back anytime.
Oh, I'd happy to have you back. Thank you so much. And you have a great day.
You too. Thank you.